It's time. Time to predict every single pick in the first round of the 2024 NFL Draft. Welcome, football fans. Welcome, draft freaks. It's Mitch of TheBottomLineView here with my predictive first round NFL mock draft for day one of the 2024 NFL Draft. I will give you my prediction for all 32 picks in the first round. This is not what I would do. I'm going to come out with a mock draft tomorrow on what I would do with each pick. This is my predictive mock draft. And if you want another one of these mock drafts where I predict all 32 first round picks, let's get to 100 likes. And I might just come out with one final mock draft the day of the NFL Draft. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of my mock, if you think I'm accurate with what your team needs, and what they're going to actually pick. Let's go. Let's predict all 32 selections in the first round. Gronk spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. I will be live for the first round of the NFL Draft on Thursday night, and I'll have a lot of post-draft content, including winners, losers, and draft grades for the first 2 days of the NFL Draft. Let's go, man. Let's kick it off with the first overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. The Chicago Bears will make the selection that everyone knows they're going to make. That is Caleb Williams, quarterback out of USC. This, to me, is the right pick. And it's not even because I believe Caleb is like head and shoulders the best quarterback in this class. As many of you know, I view May and Caleb very similarly, and I think they're both great prospects. But Caleb is the guy that if you're the general manager, no one is going to blame you to pick him. Although that people might be frustrated with how he carries himself off the field at times, I think he brings some key components to be a franchise quarterback. The creativity that he plays with is special. His arm talent is very top-notch. His ability to be elusive and composed behind his offensive line, and then the rapid release, all special traits. And then in a first overall pick, you want a confident leader, a swagger. And Caleb Williams brings all that day one to the Chicago Bears. Most importantly, he brings hope. With the second overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, I believe the Washington Commanders will select Jayden Daniels, quarterback out of LSU. Jayden Daniels is the pick, I believe, because he might be looked at as the more mature prospect and ready-to-play prospect in NFL circles over Drake May. I do not believe that makes him a better player or a better prospect, especially long-term. But when you think about Cliff Kingsbury and the offense that he wants to run, he did have success with Kyler Murray in Arizona with a mobile quarterback who can take off and run. Daniels has really good mechanics and is accurate with the ball when he's in the pocket. You worry about his creativity when he looks to take off and his potential taking too many sacks behind the offensive line. But if you can build the right offense around him with the correct weapons, which I think Washington already has a couple of those, I think you saw what Jayden Daniels can do winning the Heisman in 2023. So Daniels will be the pick at number 2. The third overall selection, of course, belongs to the New England Patriots. A lot of people think that they might trade this pick. I am not one of those people. I think the Patriots will stay and pick, especially if this man is on the board. Drake May, quarterback out of North Carolina. Drake May is a prototypical Patriot quarterback. Not just a prototypical quarterback, but a prototypical Patriot, as in the size, the arm strength, and also the off-the-field character. They've been looking for a guy that can come in and lead, and of course, be passionate and driven at this position, and I believe that Drake May possesses all the talent in terms of arm talent, athleticism, ability to extend plays, ability to make off-platform throws, the ability to work the middle of the field, all the skills to be elite, but then also the mental makeup, the family background that I believe will put him over the top as an elite quarterback in the NFL one day. Might not be right away, but they do have Jacoby Brissett, which allows them to take their time with the UNC quarterback. With the 4th overall pick, the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock. And the phones are ringing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the Cardinals will want to trade this pick, because there is a potential generational wide receiver on the board, and it's just too good to pass up. Marvin Harrison Jr. will be the selection out of the Ohio State University. Marvin Harrison is one of the best receiver prospects I have watched, and I believe that he is day one going to be a 1,000-yard receiver in the NFL. He is going to be a great fit for Kyler Murray because of his ability, rare body control, the ability to make 50-50 contested catches at a rate that I've quite, never seen in terms of spectacular catches. He's also a very crafty, nuanced, and NFL-ready route runner, and you can put him pretty much anywhere in an offense, but he is a great X receiver. I think that Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a great player, and the Cardinals just, to me, can't miss with this pick. The next one is where we get interesting. The LA Chargers are on the clock, but their phone, just as the Cardinals' phone, is ringing. And with Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers, he wants to replenish this roster. And how do you do that? You get more draft picks. You get more draft capital. They have needs on defense, the offensive line, and wide receiver. So they don't just have one spot where they can really tee off and pick a player. And with the Minnesota Vikings potentially wanting to move up for a quarterback here, and maybe because they're not having to move from 11 to 3, they don't have to give up both first-round picks, but potentially they'll have to give up maybe a second, multiple mid-round selections in day 2, or maybe even a future first-round pick for Jim Harbaugh to play with here. But I believe that the Chargers will be open to moving back because I think in their heart of hearts, they actually want to go with an offensive lineman and not a receiver. So I think that the Vikings will trade up and select their quarterback of the future, which is J.J. McCarthy out of Michigan. It also is suitable that Harbaugh would be the one to trade this pick because, of course, he was the coach of Michigan and J.J. McCarthy. So it'd almost be like a passing of the torch to Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings. Because the Chargers are not going to be taking J.J. McCarthy. Let's be fair. And McCarthy does fit Kevin O'Connell's offense. I believe that first he wants Drake May. But if he's not able to land Drake May, I think J.J. McCarthy has great mechanics. I think he has very underrated arm strength and pop in his arm. I think that he is athletic and can move and has really good feet. I do worry about his play against a collapsing pocket and pressure around him. I do think that he tends to be on the smaller side of the quarterback prospects, but he is very young. There's room to grow here with this player, and I think he's got the great off-the-field character that makes him very teachable and coachable, which I think O'Connell, McCown, and the staff will really like. So I think there's a lot of things to like about McCarthy in a really good offensive system with really good offensive playmakers in Minnesota. With the 6th overall selection, the Giants will stay and pick because there is an elite receiver that many actually think is the best in this class. That is Malik Nabers, wide receiver out of LSU. Malik Nabers is explosive, electric. He can do a lot with the ball in his hands, and he is a player that I think instantly will make an impact on any offense he plays for. He is not the prototypical outside X receiver, but he can be aligned all over a formation. He could take a handoff. He could take a screen pass. He can run by you. He is a very good route runner, in my opinion, because of his quickness in his routes. And I believe that Malik Nabers is the guy that the Giants have been missing since a former LSU receiver, Odell Beckham Jr. So they take him here at number 6. At number 7, this is an obvious pick for the Tennessee Titans. They want an offensive lineman. They get the best tackle in this class, Joe Alt out of Notre Dame. Joe Alt, I think, is just a ready-built pass blocker, overall well-balanced tackle in this class. In my opinion, he is just like the most can't miss of the tackles. He might not actually have the highest ceiling in terms of physical capabilities or high-end traits, but he is just very good technique-wise. He does have a little issues in terms of leaning, but that's only because he's 6'8". I actually think he plays with a very good base and a very good anchor considering his size. And that's kind of pretty promising to me because with that size and being able to have that sort of leverage in your lower body, that makes you an extremely dangerous and tough player to get around as a tackle. So Joe Alt is going to be very, very good. I think instant play guy with a very good offensive line coach in Tennessee. This would be a great pick for the Titans. Next up at number 8, the Atlanta Falcons are going to be looking, I think, to trade back because I think they're going to go with a defensive player. But the question is, will anybody be willing to trade up? Because the quarterbacks are kind of gone at this point. Maybe Rome Odunze, he's kind of falling down the board. We'll get to him shortly. Maybe a tackle, but there's still plenty available. So I don't really see anybody trying to trade up for this pick in my mock draft. So I have Atlanta staying and picking the best defensive prospect that they think can help them. And that would be Laiatu Latu out of UCLA. And I believe that he is the best edge player in this class by quite a wide margin. I actually think he is a very good player. He is very technical, and it's rare that you see a player at the edge position have this sort of bend, this sort of quickness, this sort of pop off the ball, and then also all the technique and the black belt in getting after the quarterback in a way that Latu has. I think that he is going to be a good player in the NFL and pretty much instantly. You're not going to have to develop him, which I think also, obviously develop him. He has a ceiling, but I think he's still a guy that can come in and play right away. And I think there's other edge prospects that don't have that same kind of traits or same ability to impact right away. And I think Atlanta's a team that thinks they're really good right now. So getting a guy that can drop into coverage, a guy that can rush the quarterback, a guy that can stop the run, that's what Atlanta needs on the edge. They don't have a guy like that. So I think Latu is the pick for them. At pick number 9, we're going to get interesting here. I think that there is possibility that Rome Odunze falls a little bit, and I believe that the Chicago Bears do not actually want to take a receiver. I think that they want to trade this pick. I think they want to add more picks, replenish some of their, lower end depth, and then surround Caleb Williams with some younger players in further rounds. And I think that the Bears actually want defense with this pick. And I think they understand that maybe they'll be able to move back a couple spots in order to get still a really good defensive player at a position of need. So they're going to try to trade this pick. So teams are going to be trying to go up. And I believe a team that could move up for a receiver is the Indianapolis Colts. I think the Indianapolis Colts will select Rome Odunze out of Washington. He is, to me, a great 50-50 catcher. He is a receiver that I think could play in pretty much any era because of his size and well-balanced skill set of a good route runner, pretty good speed, pretty good size, great hands. He could play inside, outside. He could be one of those guys that starts his career at the X receiver, moves his way into the slot as he gets a little bit older and a little bit less explosive. He reminds me of in the mold of guys like DeAndre Hopkins, those type of players where they're not the most explosive vertical threats, but they're just able to make so many different types of catches, run so many different savvy routes, and I think he is just going to be a good player. He also has very high character, and I think this is a type of prospect that the Colts could really, really use at the wide receiver position. They're desperate for another playmaker. Shane Steichen comes from Philadelphia, where they have multiple number 1 receivers, in my opinion, and a very good tight end. And I think he wants to try to replicate that as closely as possible with the mobile quarterback. I think Odunze gives them another talented outside wide receiver for this team. The New York Jets are on the clock. I wanted to forget about the Jets as a Patriots fan. But yes, they have a very high pick this year, and that is 10th overall. Now, the dilemma for the Jets comes in, do they pick Brock Bowers? Because a lot of people think they're going to pick Brock Bowers, okay? I don't know. I don't know about that. I think that it's pretty 50-50 even that they could go Brock Bowers as a explosive weapon for Aaron Rodgers or offensive line. I view both of those needs as pretty high in terms of both their tackles are old. I think that they could also try to find a prospect that maybe could contribute right away as a guard and then move to the outside and play tackle later in his career. And I know that a lot of people in the NFL are going to be high on this prospect, J.C. Latham out of Alabama. He's big, he's powerful, he's got a great anchor. And although Alabama tackles haven't exactly worked out, I think this guy has a different type of floor because I believe that he could play guard at a very high level. And he's a really good run blocker, and I think he'll be able to play probably right tackle, in year 2. So that's kind of the way I see it. I could see him playing guard early if they want him to, or just being that third tackle because Morgan Moses is really old and Tyron Smith misses a bunch of games. So if they could pick somebody like Latham, they could have some potential flexibility in their offensive line. Another one that I would maybe bring up is Amarius Mims out of Georgia for the flexibility to play left or right tackle. But I think Latham is probably the one that's being projected to go a little bit higher. So I'm going to stick with him for now as this pick. But yeah, this one's a tricky one at number 10. I do like this pick, though. I think that this is probably the correct pick at the end of the day to solidify the offensive line of the future for the Jets. At pick number 11, the Los Angeles Chargers. We're going to get to them now. Talise Fuaga out of Oregon State is the selection. I think he might be the best tackle or offensive lineman in general in this class. I think that there is an argument for him. I think that his technique is unbelievable. I think that he has pretty good feet, but he's very powerful. And I think he could be a Pro Bowl tackle or guard in the NFL. So I think he has a very high floor. And the reason I like Fuaga for the Chargers is with their new offensive coordinator, it's going to be run heavy. It's going to be downhill. It's going to be nasty. And that's the type of player that Fuaga is. He's the best run blocker in this class. So I have him going to the Chargers at number 11. At pick 12, I believe the Denver Broncos won't be over anxious to select a quarterback. They might look to trade back to get in position to more reasonably select Bo Nix or Michael Penix. But I think there's going to be a prospect on the board at this selection that Sean Payton just can't pass up. And his ego for offense and playmaking will get involved. Sean Payton loves a talented receiver. Brock Bowers will be the pick at number 12. He is one of the best tight end prospects of all time, a young producer in one of the biggest and best programs in college football. He has unique yards after catch talent, and he would fit the joker position of the Broncos really, really well. And speaking to Broncos fans, they want some explosiveness. They want a playmaker on their offense. Jerry Jeudy's gone, and Bowers could fill that slot position, that tight end position, both positions really well. This would be a good pick. Just pick a really good player. The Broncos have the worst roster in the league, arguably. Just pick a really good player. And I think they do that here. Next up, we've got the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, maybe the Raiders go after a quarterback. And I wouldn't be shocked if they picked Michael Penix with this selection. But I think another big need that they have yet to address for a reason is the cornerback position. And the best corner on the board that I think fits their defense well is Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo. Mitchell is, in my opinion, arguably the best defensive prospect in the entire draft, and he would be the first defensive prospect off the board in this mock draft. He has unique man-to-man skills, and on his tape, he plays on an island consistently. He went to the Senior Bowl, he dominated there. He has really, really good movement skills, great speed, and that is what you need in an elite corner, right? Elite speed, good size, the ability to have fluid hips and movement. And I think Mitchell has all the capabilities of being a truly great man-to-man corner. And I think he also possesses enough skill to play zone as well. I think his flexibility to be a number one corner almost right away for the Raiders is going to take their defense to the next level. They addressed Christian Wilkins in the defensive line in free agency. Now they get a shutdown corner in the back end. This is going to make Antonio Pierce's defense, this defense overall, really talented. The next selection belongs to the New Orleans Saints, and I think their pick is very obvious. I think they're going to pick the best offensive lineman that they possibly can pick. Now, the question is, who do they believe that is? That's a good question. I went with Fashanu, I believe is how you correctly pronounce his name, out of Penn State. Some people are calling him Fashanu, but I believe it's Fashanu. So, anyways, great feat. And has been really much lauded for like 2-3 years as an elite tackle prospect. And I believe his ability to pass protect, which might be right there with Joe Alt as the best in this class, I think that is what the Saints will look for more than anything. He's maybe a little bit raw in the run blocking department, but I think that just what he brings in terms of his ability to use his hands, his feet, his ability to get the right spot all the time, and his landmarks all the time. I think his consistency as a pass blocker is what the Saints will value over everything. And given that Trevor Penning has really struggled, I think that they could maybe move him, like trade him, maybe move him to a different position. Ryan Ramczyk also is a guy that you have to look out for in terms of, I'm not sure his future. Now, there's other tackles here and other linemen that are very talented. There's a kid out of Washington. There's a kid out of Georgia. So this could go a lot of different ways, but this is the one that I feel like just on the surface for now makes the most sense. So I think they go with a tackle. I'm just not exactly sure which one, but I went with Fashanu because I believe that his pass protection is the best. Next, I'm going with the Chicago Bears after a trade back, selecting a defensive player. Now, the question is, where on the defensive side? And I think front seven for sure. And then you get to the defensive line. You look at what they've done in free agency. You look at what they've done. And you feel like it's going to be rather Byron Murphy, the defensive tackle out of Texas, or Dallas Turner, the freaky edge player out of Alabama. And this one could go either way. I personally think Byron Murphy is a better player, but I think Dallas Turner playing the edge position might be the edge in general. So I could see Matt Eberflus looking at a prospect like Turner where he has all the physical capabilities and skills to be a great player at the NFL level and looking to mold that and looking to build that. And when you think about what the Texans were able to do selecting a quarterback and an edge rusher in last year's draft and looking what the Bears could do here selecting Caleb Williams, a quarterback, Dallas Turner, an edge rusher, out of the same school as Will Anderson. Man, would that make a lot of sense. So, Dallas Turner to the Bears is the pick. At pick number 16, the Seattle Seahawks will have to stay put, although I could see them trading back. I think this is a really good pick, though. That's Troy Fontenot out of Washington. I think he's really good. I like him a lot. I like his feet. I like his movement. I like his ability to get to the second level and block. I think that he's an underrated pass protector as well. I think he's got really good technique, very good anchor, very strong. And he's another guy that I think could be a good tackle, but also a very, very good guard. I think he's the one that projects best in terms of his translation to guard and being very successful. So I think he could play guard right away for Seattle, and then if something happens at tackle, he could always fill in at that position. So he gives them flexibility. He is a hometown type of guy, and this one just almost makes too much sense given their needs on the offensive line. At number 17, Jacksonville is up, and they want a corner. Everything I've heard, they're going to pick a corner. And although I am not the highest on Terrion Arnold, I believe that he'll go in the top 20 to 25 in this draft. And given what I think he projects as a corner in the NFL, I think that he is likely to play a lot of nickel. So his flexibility, I think here is huge because I think his biggest skill is first, his IQ is strong. I think his ability to play a multitude of coverages is strong. right? And then zone especially. I think his break on the ball is pretty good. And then his lateral movement is very good, which I think suits the nickel position. So when you're looking at Jacksonville, I think there's a possibility that somebody like Arnold could play outside or inside and maybe give more flexibility than a Wiggins, although Wiggins, I think, is the better player, has more upside, is more of what I like in a cornerback. But I feel like Arnold could fill out their depth chart more effectively in terms of a guy that could play outside, inside, zone, man. That's all on his tape. And then Ronald Darby was brought in as a veteran to play probably the perimeter. And right now they don't really have a nickel. So Arnold could probably slot in there as a rookie and then they could figure it out later. So that's why I went with Arnold here at pick number 17. But I'm up for the debate with the Jags. The next pick is the Cincinnati Bengals, and they would be jumping for joy if this actually ended up taking place, where they were able to snag the best interior defensive lineman in the draft, which is Byron Murphy out of Texas. I would love this for them. I think Byron Murphy is arguably the best defensive player in this draft. I think he possesses rare flexibility and let's call it durability on the interior defensive line. His ability to kind of bend and take on double teams and blocks, and then also have explosive quick step as a pass rusher, as a B-gap shooter. I think as a defensive tackle, he fits the Bengals system perfectly. He could give them a next level pass rusher from that department and also hold up against the run, which is where they've been mostly weak. Sheldon Rankins was brought in as a veteran, but this won't persuade them to not take another defensive lineman for the future. So Byron Murphy will be the selection here. They could also go with an offensive tackle, but I think if Murphy is here, he gives them more day one ability to start and play, and I think that helps them win the Super Bowl, or get closer to their goal, which is the Super Bowl, and that's where the Bengals are at in their timeline. So I think Byron Murphy makes the most sense here. At pick number 19, the Los Angeles Rams almost certainly will pick an offensive player, according to reports, because it's Sean McVay, and he has the first-round pick, I believe, of his entire career or something like that. So he's going to pick an offensive guy, and I actually think that a sneaky need for them is the offensive tackle position, because one of their tackles is super old, and the other one of their tackles, he's just mid. He's okay. He's average. And how do you maximize this team? I believe it's by protecting Matthew Stafford, keeping him upright, keeping him healthy. And they could have a guy that maybe doesn't even play right away, but he could fill in. He did that during college. He could play left. He could play right. That is, of course, Amarius Mims out of Georgia. I think this would be a great pick. I think Mims could really fit in a lot of different systems because he's got the size and the length and then also the feet. He's a rare prospect in terms of his build. He looks like a defensive end, but he plays the tackle position. It's very rare to see that type of talent. And then he also has good tape. He didn't play a lot, but don't mistake that for rawness. I could see him starting right away at left tackle for this team and really being a good player and excelling with Sean McVay. So I think he has the movement skill in their run game. I think he has the pass blocking skill to protect Matthew Stafford. A Georgia kid protecting Matthew Stafford. That's pretty cool. All right. Next up at number 20. The Steelers are almost certainly going to go offensive line. Now, they could go wide receiver, but I think they're going to value their offensive line a little bit more here. And although, some Steelers fans will want them to trade this pick for Brandon Ayuk, that's not going to be what I think is going to happen. I think they're ultimately going to go with the best center on the board. And I think this would be a very solid pick for them because I really like Jackson Powers Johnson. Watching the Senior Bowl, I thought he was dominant in the one-on-ones. I just think he has a really good anchor, really good power player. And he also has a lot of the nuances of playing center very much down. I think day one, he's an instant starter and a really good player. I think this is maybe not quite Tyler Linderbaum type prospect, but man, this guy is good. And I think he could give them what they've been missing since Pouncey retired, honestly. A powerful center that dictates the game and gets their offensive line to a dominant force. Especially in the interior, they would be very formidable with this pick. So I like this pick a lot for them. At number 21, this one's also obvious to me. I think the Dolphins need to address the interior of their offensive line. Some people have them going with defensive line, but with the moves that they've made in free agency, they signed 4 guys on the defensive line. So I think offensive line's more likely. Like some of the guys like Robert Jones. Are you kidding me? So Graham Barton is going to be the pick for the Miami Dolphins out of Duke. He could play center or guard. I think he projects best at guard. So I think this ends up working out that the Steelers don't pick him. But Graham Barton, I think, has the movement skills and also the ferociousness and the technique to be a good player right away for Miami. But then also in their zone scheme, I think this is a good enough athlete to play center, to play guard in their system, and to be able to be successful right away. So Miami's looking to protect Tua, but they're also looking to have a guy that can be really active in the run game. I think that's what Barton brings. He just brings a really good, high floor, good offensive lineman from day one and can solidify the interior of the pocket, which is very much needed to protect Tua because he's a pocket passer. He needs that time, especially as a smaller guy, to be able to step up and make those throws. So I like this pick. At pick number 22, this one I'm not so sure about, but I've seen a lot of people mock this one. And I'm not somebody that goes out there and like tries to dictate my mock based on other people's, but I just seen a lot of people kind of connecting things, and I think that he is going to go in the first round. I think that he is going to go in the top 25, 26. Cooper DeJean is a really good football player. My question is like, where does he play at the NFL level? So I think he could start off at corner because I think he has great size, great physicality, and really good speed. He has enough athleticism to certainly in a straight line be a good corner. But my question is, does he have the hips? Does he have the flip of the hips and the transition ability, the agility, the lateral movement to be a good corner, especially in man? But here's the thing. The Eagles play a lot of zone, and obviously they play a lot of two deep. So my question is, like, does he start as a corner? Maybe they try him out. They see how he works. If not, I think he's going to be an excellent safety. I would categorize him as the best safety in this class because I think he's going to have that versatility to play one-on-one with tight ends because that's not where his lateral movement will be exposed. I think he's an excellent tackler. He has great football feel. He's a great athlete in general. And he's got great instincts, great ball skills, all that stuff to be a really good safety. So regardless here, he fits one of the positions of need for the Philadelphia Eagles at pick number 22. At pick number 23, the Minnesota Vikings are up, and I think if they stay in pick here, this pick will probably be a defensive player for Brian Flores because he needs some help on that side of the ball. They've spent enough capital trying to get a quarterback. And in my trade, they don't have to trade their other first-round pick for the 5th overall selection. That will likely come with day 2 selections, but you can make an argument. I don't know exactly how that trade's going to work out. This is a mock draft, but I'm going to allow the Vikings to pick here in my setting, and I'm going to have them taking a corner, Nate Wiggins. Nate Wiggins is one of my 5 to 6 favorite prospects on the defensive side of the ball in this class. I think that he kind of has some Christian Gonzalez in his game. He's got very fluid movement, extremely good hips and transition ability when backpedaling. I think that he's got really good speed. He's got the size at 6 foot plus, I believe 6 foot, 6'1". He's a little bit skinny, but he showed a lot of ability to play man press coverage. And we know that Brian Flores loves some man press coverage. And they need a true number 1 corner to be able to pull off this scheme effectively long term. So I believe that is what Nate Wiggins gives them. He is my second favorite corner in this class, but I just had Arnold going above him because of mock drafts, and probably he is going to go ahead in NFL circles, but that's just my opinion. At pick number 24, the Dallas Cowboys are kind of stuck because I don't think there's a great tackle prospect on the board for them to select here. But there is one that possesses a lot of the tools that they typically like. Movement, length, right, size. And that is Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma. Tyler Guyton is raw, in my opinion. But with the Cowboys' ability to build up prospects and teach prospects and kind of give them the tools to succeed, I think Guyton makes a lot of sense for Dallas. Like, I would have more faith with Guyton going to Dallas and succeeding than other teams. You just look at what they were able to do with Tyler Smith, right? And so I believe that Guyton has, like, one of the best athletic profiles among all these tackles, which is really, really good. You know, like, in the offensive line Olympics, this guy would be in the top 3, if not number 1, right? Gold medal. So that's the type of upside he has with his movement, his feet, and then also the measurables. So I'm counting on Dallas kind of going with their measurables here and a position of need, which is offensive line. And I think they pick Guyton. At pick number 25, this is maybe a little bit more bias in this pick because I just love this player. Like, I cannot understand why he is not considered a first round prospect, a great player. I do believe this is a first round player and a first round need for the Packers, but I also believe that the Packers could go a couple different ways. I think they could go safety, but Cooper DeJean is off the board, and I feel like he would be the only one they would pick here. And then you've got offensive line, which is another position where they could go with that. But I'll just give you the pick. That's Peyton Wilson. Peyton Wilson out of NC State. Watching him, I think he's going to be an elite linebacker. He's 6'4", 4.4 speed, moves like a gazelle, has incredible effort and motor, tracks people down like nobody's business. This guy has the movement skills to be an elite coverage linebacker in the NFL. He shoots gaps extremely well. He has the size to play the run. He could probably cover tight ends. He's got 4.4 speed at 6'4". Like, how many athletes are there on earth like that? I don't know, man. And then he's a really smart player. Like, I just don't understand why this guy's not getting more hype. I think this would be, like, Quay Walker is a beast in his own right athletically. Put Wilson beside him in a San Francisco type scheme where they value the linebacker. Man, this is a great replacement for Devondre Campbell. Next, at pick 26, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will almost certainly go defense. They could go with offensive line, but I don't think there's like a clear guy that they would love here. And there is a defensive prospect falling down the board that I think should be selected by now, and that is Jared Verse out of FSU. I think Jared Verse is the second best edge rusher in this class. I really like his power. I think he plays with great hands, very heavy hands. He's able to knock people back and get to the quarterback. I think he's got pretty good technique, although could be taught a little bit more, and decent enough bend for me to see the upside. But I think he fits the type of edge prospect that Tampa Bay would be after, kind of like a Jason Pierre-Paul type of esque player, where he's more of a power technique guy over like super bendy, almost, that type of style. But yeah, I think they need a pass rusher, and I think they have needed a pass rusher for a couple years. So Jared Verse would be the pick for me. At pick number 27, I think the Cardinals are also searching for front seven help, especially pass rusher. And I do think that Darius Robinson out of Missouri is a first-round player, and I think the NFL will view him that way as well. He plays also with great power. And the thing about him that's interesting is he's going to be versatile. I think he could play 5-tech in the NFL at times. I think he could also play on the edge at times. I think his ability to use power and that speed to power is effective. And hey, Jonathan Gannon's a defensive line guy, so I think he's going to get one of those guys. And I think Darius Robinson will be his answer at this pick. At pick number 28, the Bills are praying to the heavens that they're able to get a top 4 receiver in this draft class, and that is obviously Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. Combine his speed and size profile with Josh Allen's arm, and you have something potentially special. Brian Thomas reminds me of an DK Metcalf type prospect. His ability to stop, start, and his ability to run is special at his size. I think he's a little bit better route runner than he gets credit for, but the Bills need an outside X receiver that can stress a defense vertically. I think he gives them more vertical dimension than Stephon Diggs did right away. And yeah, he's not quite the route runner or the nuance guy, but they have other receivers in order to do that, like Curtis Samuel and Khalil Shakir, and then also Dalton Kincaid. So they don't really need the kind of like underneath intermediate threat. They need a guy. They need a dude. They need a big guy. They need a speed guy. And Brian Thomas gives them all that. So look out. This guy could score multi 40-plus yard touchdowns in year one. Pick number 29, the Detroit Lions. This one was probably the most difficult because the Lions, I don't see a corner on the board here for them to select. So I think they're just going to pick a player that maybe is at a little bit of a need, but I think they just love the upside. This will be the shocker of my mock draft, maybe. I'm going to go with the receiver. I'm picking Mitchell out of Texas for the Lions. And it's because of the upside, right? 4.3-ish speed with really unique movement skills and route running capabilities for a receiver as big and tall as him. And they need an outside threat, right? They have Amon-Ra St. Brown in the slot. They've got Sam Laporta at tight end, two bona fide studs. Jahmyr Gibbs coming out of the backfield. They think Jameson Williams is their Z receiver. Speed, quickness, right? Vertical dimension. Mitchell could be their X. That is an offense. So maybe they need a corner, but I don't see one here at this pick. Maybe they need an offensive lineman. Sure, they could go there. But who is going to help them right now beat the Niners? I think an X receiver. So this is the last one that really projects as a potentially awesome X receiver. They take a swing. They take a little bit of a luxury pick here. At pick number 30, the Ravens are going to address their offensive line. Big uglies. That's what Baltimore does. Zach Frazier out of West Virginia is the selection. I think he plays with ferociousness, power. Frazier did play center, I believe, in college, but I think he could play guard as well. So I think he slots in right away at guard. But either way, I think he's going to bring them a downhill, powerful guy that opens up their run game. And that's what the Ravens do, right? They brought in Derrick Henry. They're still going to want to run the ball a lot. So Frazier is their selection here. At pick number 31, the 49ers also have to address the offensive line. I think they will with this pick. They might even try to trade up. And who knows what will happen with Brandon Ayuk. They might have multiple first-round picks in this draft. But I think if they stay in pick here, Jordan Morgan would be their selection out of Arizona. He played tackle at Arizona, but I think he projects best at guard in the NFL. So I would say right guard for the 49ers. And that is definitely a position of need. I also believe that he has the movement skills to be very active in their zone blocking scheme and pulling as a lineman. And I think that he is obviously a pretty good pass blocker, having played tackle in college. And he's already got good technique. I think he's an underrated player and deserves to be picked in the first round. And the final pick of the first round in my predictive mock draft, I wanted to go with a tackle, quite honestly, for the Chiefs, because I think that's the position they're most likely to address early because they don't have a left tackle right now. And wide receiver, they tend to wait on. But if the ball falls this way and the board falls this way, more importantly, I believe that Patrick Mahomes is going to call up Andy Reid and he's going to say in his Kermit the Frog voice, "Hey, pal, there's a kid from Texas. He runs pretty fast, and he could be my Tyreek 2.0. Kansas City Chiefs take Xavier Worthy out of Texas. Speed, vertical dimension, an early producer as a freshman, the fastest man in combine history that I believe would be utilized correctly with Kansas City. Hand the ball off to him, run vertical routes, right? Marquise Brown, they brought in, right? Worthy could give them that dimension long term because Marquise Brown's only on a 1-year contract. And with Rashee Rice's situation, you are not sure about that. So Worthy, I think, could play outside. I think he could play in the slot. I think he could get handoffs. I think he could return. He could do a lot of different things for them right away. And I think Mahomes would say, "Hey, pal, get me that wide receiver." So at number 32, Xavier Worthy. That is my mock draft, my predictive one, at least 1.0 for the 2024 NFL draft. My what I would do mock will be out on Wednesday, probably Wednesday morning. And if you guys want to see me do another predictive mock, I will make sure that it's done for Thursday before the NFL draft. I will also be live Thursday for the NFL draft. Thank you guys so much for watching. Gronk spiked the like button. 100 likes for that final version of the predictive mock. Subscribe if you haven't already. It's Mitch. Peace.